coming up next.
You got to feel it to heal it. And I truly get that, because, and I chronicle this in my book, I had to stuff my emotions to get on with it. And my background, freeing from London, I mean, that's the way I was raised too, like stiff upper lip, like you just got to get on, strap your shoes on, pull your socks up, dust yourself off, get on with it. It's the mentality, right? So, I mean, I stuffed. I went into survival because, I mean, I was a single parent. I had to get on with the abandonment. I had to get on with court. I had to get on with my son. I had to work. So Christ filtered into that, because Christ helped me believe that I would get out of the dark situation. As my mum said to me, there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes. And
I had this trust and faith in the process because I believed in something greater than myself. And that's the component that is so important when you're in the midst of something terrible.
Welcome to Faith Over Addiction podcast, where the chains of fixing and striving are broken and joy is rediscovered in Christ. You are here because you know there's more for you. A life beyond addiction's chaos, rooted in God's peace and promises. This is the place where Christian women like you learn to release the weight of fixing and striving and instead lean into God's strength to create a home filled with love, grace, and hope. She is clothed with strength and dignity. Proverbs 31:25. That's you. You may not feel like it yet, but you are stronger than you know. And God has so much more for you than carrying someone else's addiction. Here, we'll uncover how to set healthy boundaries with love and a little humor. Find resilience and grace in the messy moments of life. Celebrate small victories and embrace joy like never before. Lean into God's promises for restoration and strength, because He's not done with your story or your loved ones. This is your invitation to rise up, embrace your worth in God's kingdom, and take back what's been stolen by addiction: your peace, your joy, your future. Your faith is the foundation, and your boundaries are the bridge, and God's truth is your guide. I'm Tanya Joya, your host and fellow traveler on this journey through the chaos of addiction. I'm here to cheer you on, equip you with tools that work, and share the truth that's changed my life. The joy of the Lord is your strength. Nehemiah 8:10. Together, we'll uncover how to create safe, loving space for healing, starting with your own heart and home. By setting boundaries, trusting God's plan, and embracing His truth, you can reclaim your joy, your peace, and your family's future. Then you will be able to stand firm for your family and legacy as a kingdom daughter, a woman who can laugh at the days to come, knowing her identity is secure in Christ. So grab a cup of coffee or tea and get comfortable. Let's walk this journey together. We're about to take back what's been stolen, create a safe, healing space for you and your family, and rediscover the joy God has waiting for you. How do I find love after heartbreak? Anybody who's over probably the age of 10 has asked that question. And I have found a beautiful woman who is an emotional intelligence coach, Pamela Williams. We're going to talk about heartbreak. We're going to talk about what the Lord says about that. And we want you to really focus in on your identity in Christ. That's the full healing. So Pamela, tell us a little bit more about how you decided to become an emotional intelligence coach. What is your story that brought you here?
Thank you for the question and for asking. Well, ironically, it was through writing my book. My background is in social work. My degree is in psychology with an emphasis on sociology. But it was after writing my book that I realized the steps that I naturally take to heal and maintain such a positive outlook on my life and resilience. And so with me writing the book, I wanted to offer that to other people, because I'm often asked, how are you so positive? Or when people have read my book, they're like, the first thing they say is, I had no idea you went through all of that. Like, that was crazy because of the fact that I'm so positive. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I get my moments when I'm upset and whatnot, but I move through the cycle. I don't stay stuck. And that's the key. So it was through doing the self-discovery work of writing my book and releasing the emotions that came with abandonment and rejection and plugging into Christ, because I can tell you in my book, I chronicle Christ as the rainbow, because it's written in an analogy sort of way, but the rainbow. Right. And I tell you, I couldn't be at this point in my life and my juncture of my life without the rainbow. So that's a little bit about how, I hope I answered that fully. If you want me to go into a bit more.
Well, yeah, well, let's talk a little bit more. You know, we all have heartache, and they talk about it, you know, through grief or through, you know, something tragic or traumatic happening. And there are times when we get stuck. And stuckness for me feels like, I told you, it's been raining for 4 days and I have a real response to the rain. And I'm just like, I don't want to do the dishes. I don't want to eat. I don't want to do anything. So you said you're coming at this with resilience and positivity. Talk to us about how you can do that when it is really serious, when it is abandonment, when it is trauma, when it is a person you love has gone out one more time to use whatever they're using to numb their pain.
Oh gosh. Well, in terms of resilience, I believe that that is a skill that we can all build. Like, we can all build on resilience, and baked into life are experiences that help us do that. Now, the problem is, in terms of being stuck, people don't want to feel and deal with the emotional pain. Like, we seek pleasure, right? And an aversion to pain. But learning to embrace the balance of that, like, yeah, in life, we're going to have pleasure and we're going to need to get through the pain in order to learn what we need to do, build our character and get through whatever situation it is. We just have to acknowledge how we feel about what happened and then release how we feel about what happened. And it's the problem of not doing that is what keeps us, oh, excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you. Sorry, guys. Excuse me. It's the problem of not doing that process is what keeps us stuck. And the other side of the sword of that is mindset. Mindset is such an important part of emotional intelligence, because the way you think influences the way you feel. Oh gosh, excuse me. I'm about to sneeze again. Sorry, allergies. Oh gosh. So recognizing your thoughts and what you believe about your situation is so imperative to the process, because when you don't, you open yourself up to rumination. You know, you truly do. You get into that spiral, and then you're it's hard to get out of that spiral unless you're present or you have outside influences, which could be a friend, a therapist, somebody, a professional who can help point out, hey, maybe this is just a distorted way of thinking, you know? And so that's how you get over that aversion, I would say, to be stuck, is to feel it, to heal it. I often say that with my clients. You got to feel it to heal it. It sucks.
And why we're saying, no,
I don't want to. You know,
don't want to be.
You got to feel it to heal it. And I truly get that, because, and I chronicle this in my book, I had to stuff my emotions to get on with it. And my background, freeing from London, I mean, that's the way I was raised too, like stiff upper lip, like you just got to get on, strap your shoes on, pull your socks up, dust yourself off, get on with it. It's the mentality, right? So, I mean, I went into survival, because I mean, I was a single parent. I had to get on with the abandonment. I had to get on with court. I had to get on with my son. I had to work. So Christ filtered into that, because Christ helped me believe that I would get out of the dark situation, as my mum said to me, there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes.
And I had this trust and faith in the process because I believed in something greater than myself. And that's the component that is so important when you're in the midst of something terrible, because it helps you aspire to be like, my gosh, I got to keep going. I can get through this. You know what I mean? Like, I have this unseen energy that's on my side too. It might not feel like it, but little miracles will show up. You drive through the coffee, right? You go and get coffee, and all of a sudden someone says, oh, don't worry about it, it's free today. Stuff like that. I mean, you know what I mean? Like little things like that help you think, yeah, that's a win. You know what I mean? Or someone gives up a seat for you. Those little bits of miracles show you that, you know what, there is an energy working for me in my favor, and I can move forward. I can take that step.
How do you help? So here's my theory. I'll just tell you my Tanya's secret theory.
I'd love to.
That the burning bush in the desert for Moses was burning for a long time. But either God didn't want Moses to see it, or Moses wasn't ready to see it.
Oh God, I just got goosebumps of that.
So here's my question. When we get stuck, how do you work with your clients so they can see those little moments when they are acting like Charlie Brown and nothing is ever going to go right? How do you help them recognize? You labeled off some really good ones. How do you help them recognize those and not detract from them? Because we'll say, oh, well, that happened, but that happened to everybody, you know?
Right. Well, what I do is I point out in their story, like I ask them questions that guide them down a path so that they can like see clearly, because that's the thing. A lot of the time, because that was great when you said about the burning bush, because it's twofold to that. Timing is everything. I believe in the divine timing of my life and everyone's life. But sometimes people are not ready to see something. And when they are ready to see it, somebody points something out to them that helps shifts their perspective. And then they see it, because once you can see it, you can't unsee it. So oftentimes with my process with my clients, like I ask questions, but then I will point out something really slight. So an example could be, and I'm honest, man, that's what you see is what you get with me. In terms of, we were talking, I had a client where, you know, things weren't going too good in her marriage. So it was filtering into work. Right. And this, I started to notice the pattern, because she was upset with work and then she was bringing it home. I asked her, I said, well, I'm kind of starting to see you're having problems at home, you're having problems at work. What do you think you're bringing to the situation? And before you say no, everybody brings something. Everyone's bringing their own energy. Like, what could you do differently? And it was like, she paused and she went, well, maybe I could say how I'm feeling. It was like, ding, ding,
there
ding,
you
ding.
Go.
There you go. You know what I mean? Something as just slight and simple as that shifted a perspective and was like, maybe I can advocate for myself. Maybe I can say, look, I've had a hard day. It's about boundaries, right? Before we got on, we were talking a little bit about boundaries.
Yes.
I've had a bit of a bad day, and you know what? I'm not ready to engage right now, but just give me a moment. Let me get some wine. Let me put my feet up, and then we'll engage. Something as simple as that. And it's shifted her perspective, and it started to get her to be like, okay, yes, I can advocate for myself. I can actually say, and not take ownership of how someone else is going to receive that, because that was part of the problem. It's like, you only have ownership of how you can communicate your message and in the way you do it so it doesn't, you know, upset someone. But you can't control how they're going to receive it, you know?
How do you slow them down from going, okay, if I come home and say I need a minute, then kids are going to be screaming, husband's going to be upset, or, you know, dinner needs to get on the table by a certain time because we've got an activity, blah, 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 blah. And I have already played out this whole scenario, had the conversations with everybody. I've worked through the whole thing. And my decision is, shoot, it is just easier to take care of it. How do you help that person really see their legitimate needs?
Because oftentimes when you're in a situation where you just want to get on with it, and I understand that, because like I say my baby, but he just graduated on Sunday, and obviously married.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But with that, guilt is normally the emotion that's associated with I'm not going to advocate for myself and I'm just going to take care of it because it's easier.
Mm.
And also burnout. So what
Mm-hmm.
I point out to them is like, you're struggling with burnout. You're struggling with advocating for yourself. Let's take some things off your plate that are causing the burnout. Can you delegate some things? Because at the end of the day, if you a battery that's run down, how can you, because this is one of the things I point out. If you're a battery, just think of it that way, and you're run down, how can you help or be of any use to anyone else if you can't recharge yourself? So again, that gets people thinking in a different way that, okay, maybe there are some things I can take off my plate so that I'm not so exhausted and drained all the time. And that then I can then fully commit to whatever it is that I need to do, is get the dinner going. I've got activities to take the kids to. Hey, maybe could someone else pick the kids up? Why don't you carpool? So we've introduced carpool, things like that. And for me in our household, I only cook three times a week.
Good for you.
Trust me, like I said, I turned 46 last couple weeks ago, and it's taken me this long to figure out, certain things. But in terms of the cooking, we've been doing that for a while. But what I'm saying is like to implement things that run smoothly so that I can run, because I can't be the best mum and wife I can be if I'm burnt out all the time, right? And so it's important to delegate some of these things and create a bit of space for yourself so that you can recharge and then be the best person that you can be. Because otherwise, you're going to be running on empty.
Agreed. I'm going to push a little bit further. In
Please do.
an addiction situation, often trust
Yeah.
is so broken that if I try to set up something of meals or carpools or whatever, I'll get a yes, but then the action won't happen. How do you begin to deal? 'Cause it's breaking my heart. It's probably breaking their heart too, that they're not able to do what they say they want to do. How do you bring Christ into that trust situation?
Gosh, that's a great question. Okay, so the person who would be the person that's addicted, the one who has the responsibilities and obligations,
No,
or
the other, it's the person who is caring for that person. And so
mm,
what often happens when you talk about batteries, this person
mm,
isn't just out of battery. Their
yeah,
battery has been dead for so long that they've been running on complete empty
empty.
for a long, long time. And what their fear is that things could go drastically wrong or somebody could die if I don't take care of all this. I mean,
And that's legit. Yeah.
it's legit in some levels. In other levels, it is something that pushes them forward. So their battery's dead, but this fear crisis thing pushes them forward. I mean, if we go back to Moses, remember why he left this enclave of Egypt where he had everything, is
Yeah.
because he killed a man and he had to run. I mean, that
Run.
was fear. So
Yeah.
this is the same thing. They are afraid that somebody will either get drastically hurt or somebody will die or the whole family will disintegrate. So keeping them happy at a level is worth totally depleting themselves. It's a
No.
complete misplace of trust.
Yeah.
And it's total heartbreak because this is
It
not what they signed up for.
Exactly. And I'm glad that you've referenced it that way in terms of heartbreak, because even I chronicle the ending in my book. Like, heartbreak isn't just limited to romantic love. It's anything that causes like a grief or loss or of some type, right? So in this instance, I would absolutely implore anyone to welcome Christ into the situation, because again, we talked about that faith and plugging into something greater than ourselves helps us to trust the process. So where I'm going with that, and I don't want this to sound heartless, because it's not. I'm able to like separate emotion from like thought and what I'm saying, but they're in life, and I believe this, that everybody has lessons that they have to learn. And people bring lessons when they're coming into our lives, especially difficult people and people that are just having a lot of difficulty in life, right? And when you trust the process, there's only so much that you can do. You can't save somebody who doesn't want to be saved. And I experienced this greatly as a social worker. I remember I was burnt out a lot because I was trying to fix everything all the time. And one of my supervisors at the time said to me, because I was prevalently dealing with my clients who had addiction, and then obviously it leads to trouble for the children and stuff. She's like, out of 10 people, if you help one person, you've done your job. All you can do is show up to the best of your ability, and in that instance is making sure that services were in place, making sure that counseling was in place. For parents, they had to do UAs, I can't even say the word, urinalysis, making sure that the kids were okay. So in terms of like the parent and anyone dealing with somebody who's going through an addiction, there's only so much you can do. You can't save somebody who doesn't want to be saved. So you can be supportive, and then you also have to be at that point where, and when you're really plugged in with Christ, you will learn and understand that I have to let this person learn whatever it is, the lesson that it is, but I have to keep the door open so that they know that I'm supporting them. Because otherwise you're going to be, as we ascertained, burnt out. And how are you going to be able to help that person properly when you're burnt out? And then you start enabling that person in a sense, instead of them being in a position, because sadly you have to hit rock bottom, right? And that's not fun. I've dealt with death in my family. So, I mean, I know, I mean, you don't want to go, you know what I mean? You don't, but at the same token, you know,
I've been saying to myself the last couple of weeks, as this was an epiphany for me. It's so simple. Not all problems need to be solved.
Ooh.
And not all problems that are brought to me need to be solved by me.
Oh,
And
yes.
that
You're
has
very
hit me
deep.
really heavy, because I've been looking at some things going, is that a me or a we or an us or a them issue? You know, separating those things out. And what I see with a lot of these families is so much enmeshment, they can't answer that question. If that's a me, a we, an us, or a them, not to the sense of, hey, get yourself, like you said earlier, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, get yourself together, pretend like nothing's going on. There's that, how do you say, I'm tired, I'm hurt, I'm sad,
Have to.
when what I see more is I'm angry, because that's a safe emotion, a cover emotion.
Oh, yeah.
So when heartbreak hits, that's what a lot of people do, is get angry and blame. How do you help them pull back from the anger and the blame?
Well, anger is always, always, always a secondary emotion. It's the safest one to express because it makes the person feel powerful, right? As opposed to the underlying issue, which could be, I'm hurt. 9 times out of 10 is like, I'm hurt. And so again, what I do when someone's angry, I know immediately, okay, what's the underlying cause for that? And I try to dig deep to figure out, okay, well, what's the underlying cause for the anger? Because it's either hurt, or you're grieving, you've lost something, you know, like you're feeling unloved. There's some other emotion underneath that. And that's part of the process of asking the right questions to probe and figure out, so that my client realizes, because that's the power for them when they realize, my gosh, I'm angry because, you know what, I've been a support for you. I put my trust in you. And yes, you have this illness, but you hurt me. I'm showing up for you and you've hurt me. And at that point, it's me then trying to show them that these are valid emotions that you're expressing and feeling, but they have an illness. That's not an excuse, mind you, but it's just providing understanding into trying not to take it personally. Because that's the other thing, right, that we all tend to kind of do, is take things personally. But I've learned, when someone, like, hurt people.
Amen.
Right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
They do that. And so with knowing that, I don't take it personally. It still hurts when something happens, but I just acknowledge that and release it. I have a meditation practice a lot for me where I'm able to do that and connect with Jesus, you know, and so I do that every morning. But that's the process. And these little tidbits and tips that I'm saying now, that when you're going through something bad, is having a little morning routine or evening, whenever it is for you. But part of that is connecting to Jesus and releasing through through meditation.
And there's a lot of people who would say, I can't turn my mind off to meditate. It always feels like just buzzing, buzzing, buzzing. How? So I'll ask the audience question. How are you releasing it? So we talked about this earlier, rumination. So you have fully released it. You are not ruminating on it. You can look at that person and go, yeah, that hurt. Might need a boundary, but I'm not renting them any more space.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Well, what I could tell you is this for sure, right? When I first started meditating, and I started about 10 years ago, but I'll be honest, I was off and on. I weren't, but it's the last 5 years where I've stuck to it because I could actually see the benefit as well. You can't not think, I believe anyway. It is an integral part of our process of creation. Like we have an intention, which is the driver of our thought, and then we think something, and that's like the idea of whatever, and then we go into action to create it. So I want to first tell the audience and say, if your thoughts start racing, don't think that you're weird or you're doing it wrong. This is the process that you're starting. But what I do say, a simple thing that you can do is bring your attention to your body. Some people do breathing, but what I do is my body. Like if you sit still and ask yourself, what am I feeling in my body? And your attention shifts to that, you're going to be surprised what you feel. Like it's alive, or it's vibrating. There's tingles, there's little hot flashes or cold flashes. Your hands get hot or cold like this. Your feet, there's so many things. So that's what I would say to people. Just find your safe space and your quiet spot, sit comfortably, and then ask yourself, what am I feeling in my body? And close your eyes and tune into that. And when the grocery list comes up, don't get angry, don't get upset with yourself. Just realign yourself again and be like, okay, I'll get that after. Acknowledge it, because it was supposed to be acknowledged. All right, I'll get that after. And ask yourself again, what am I feeling in my body? Helps ground you.
So what I'm hearing is acknowledge the feeling, because it's a legitimate feeling.
Yeah, and thought.
And thoughts, but that doesn't mean you have to act on it.
Yes.
Now let's talk about what goes with it is often boundaries. Share with us your thoughts on boundaries and how you set those up.
Oh my gosh. You know, I tell you who's a great proponent for this and champion is Brene Brown. And my gosh, absolutely. When you talk in her with emotions and boundaries and just unpacking that, and it's important and imperative to set boundaries, because what you're actually saying when you set a boundary is, I'm determining how, or you're clarifying how you can and can't treat me. That's what you're doing when you set a boundary. Mm-hmm. And if you don't set them, well, then people don't know and will assume that they could then walk all over you and do whatever they think they can get away with, right? Mm-hmm. So setting boundaries is you're advocating for yourself, because, like, again, think of us as a battery. And if we are drained, what use are we going to not just be to ourselves, but to the person that you're caring for, the person that you love, if you're married, if you're a parent, if you're working, like what good or use would you be to anyone if you are depleted yourself? Nobody will get the best of you, and you for sure in yourself won't get the best of yourself. And we're here to live, right? And experience life. So setting boundaries is just clarifying, hey, this is what I'm willing to put up with and what I'm not. And even if it's just, like I say, advocating for yourself, and if, like, you know, in terms of your addiction and you're dealing with somebody who is dealing with this illness, and communicating and talking to them, even if they have hurt you, you know, you broke my trust and I've been showing up for you. So I'm going to put the boundary in now. It doesn't mean that I don't love you. Mm-hmm. I have to protect myself too. But in doing this, I want you to be able to get the help too. You know, so just something like that, just so that the other person knows it's not that you don't care, but you care about yourself too, right? You have to.
Well, we have to, because God tells us to love your neighbor as yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to love yourself first.
Yeah.
Oftentimes I see with women, and I bet you experience this too, that they have pretty much given away their self. Their self has walked over someplace else in caretaking, and even
Yeah.
doing it in the workplace. So
Yeah.
when you find people that are really struggling to know what they like, who they like, their
Mm,
identity, how are you
mm.
helping them?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. It's one of the things I actually love the most too, because and in the process of creating a self-care routine for my clients, this part often comes out up and out of that, where they discover the things that they actually really like doing and prioritizing time for themselves. You know, it's finding the things that they like, and it's not so much the identity of, because to me identity is being able to go in
Mm-hmm.
and plug into Christ. Honestly, that's where I get my confidence from. There's only two ways to do it: internally and externally. External forces of self-worth come in the forms of dominating people, adulation, status, and things. And so when people are going through an identity crisis, I know it's an insecurity. And it's like, well, I try to see, well, where are they getting their self-worth from? Is it
Mm,
because you're a CEO and that title holds so much for you? Well, it's dangerous, because if you're not a CEO, then you'll lose your identity, right?
right.
So is it controlling people, which falls under the category of domination? Well, that means your power is only limited to whoever you're around, whoever you can dominate. So oftentimes what we do is build this self-care routine that eliminates the burnout. It's a self-discovery journey so that my clients know who they are, more so who they want to be, because then that determines who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And doing the things that bring them joy, that fill their cup, so that they're comfortable in who they are inside. And that's tuning out all the noise and going within. And that, like I say, is plugging into beyond.
How hard do your clients fight you about filling their own cup instead of letting the world fill their cup? Because that's
Yeah.
often what we do is we
Yes.
say, well, I'll be abandoned, or my kids won't be here after,
Yeah.
so and so, or this, that, and the other. How do you help them see how to fill their own cup?
I point out the reason why they came to me in the first place. That's a great place to start as well. And like I say, I just give them little pointers where I'm asking them questions about, well, how would you want to feel? Like, do you want to feel this way forever?
Mm-hmm.
Like, nothing lasts forever, mind you. Like, in what way can you contribute to your own happiness? Like, I ask questions that really pinpoint and help them travel down a path where, because I have had some resistance, and I don't resist the resistance because I know it's part of the process.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of the process. I mean, they have to see themselves. And so I just lightly probe and ask questions that are thought provoking and help them get to a point where, you know what, I would be a better parent if I did this. I would be better at my work if I did this. I would be better person showing up if I had more time for myself, you know? So again, it's just a gentle style of asking questions
Yeah.
and then holding a space for them where they feel safe enough to talk. Because that's the thing. My husband will joke about this. He's like, "God, you don't know a stranger," because people will just like tell me like strangers will just tell me whatever about their life and stuff, and I just point out certain things, or I give them encouragement, and off they go. So I mean, it's pretty much the same thing, and holding that space so people feel like seen, heard, and understood. Because that's a big thing that I've discovered, that's what we all want to feel: seen, heard, and
Yes.
understood. You
Yes.
know.
I'm glad you came to that, because I was going there next about the
Mm,
safety, in that oftentimes in this family dynamic, it is not safe to have feelings. It's not safe to express
mm,
your feelings. And you can be in a position to where if you set a boundary, and for
mm,
me, boundaries are only things you can control. So I
well,
can't
yeah,
decide. Yeah, I can't decide when you're supposed to be home if you're another adult. I can't
yeah,
decide, who your friends are, all those other
yeah,
things. I can influence some things. I can contribute positively or
yeah.
negatively to some things. But what? what do you help how do you help them set up safety for themselves? And I'm not so let's be real clear. I'm not
Mm,
talking if there's violence or abuse. I'm
yeah.
just talking about this is a family dynamic that we're so enmeshed that we're not sure where your feelings end and mine begin and theirs stop and yours start. How do you begin that
Mm.
separation process without the abandonment?
Well, a lot of the problems that we face with enmeshment in particular is core wounds that we have, right? Anybody who's in a situation where they feel they have to enmesh, there's something deeper going on, be it abandonment, be it rejection, be it being criticized, be it feeling unloved, you know?
Mhm.
And so oftentimes a great point you talked about just in asking that question is about the fact that we have no control over what somebody else does. And that's the other thing I talk to my clients about. It's like, look, you got no control over what they do, what they're going to say. The only thing you can control is what you say and how you respond to it.
Yeah.
So with the enmeshment, it starts with the individual, I would say, right? You have to check in with yourself and check in with your own feelings and about the situation before you can then move forward about somebody else. Like even with the example you gave, like it's about setting rules though. No society would function without rules. I mean, we'd have anarchy then. We
Mm.
have to, and in the same in the household. Like my son's out there storm chasing right now, bless his heart. That's his thing. He wants to be a meteorologist and stuff, but he knows the rule is, son, you need to be home by 11 midnight latest. I don't want to hear any if, ends, or buts about it. Now, my faith in Christ helps me lay that down and be comfortable in that, knowing that no matter what, things will be the way they're supposed to be, you
Mhm.
know? And so I hold that space with that because I've set the rule, I've set the boundary. See, he has that acknowledge of what I'm expecting. And then my faith comes into that as well. That helps me trust the fact that I've laid that boundary and that it will be okay. So oftentimes when people are enmeshed, I know it's a core problem within oneself. So it's doing the work yourself to figure out, okay, like, why do I feel like I have to blend into this person to feel any sort of self-worth, and then also anchor myself to them so that I don't really necessarily have to say how I'm feeling, but then I'm pleasing them, you know?
Shoot. Do your clients get upset with you with that? They're like, no, the answer is if they would just get their life together, I would be fine. But really, what you're pointing to is it's between them and God, whatever the wounding is to
Yeah.
heal that
Oh
wound.
yeah. Some people, I mean, when they get upset in terms of like they'll push back, but it's not like bad. They're more grateful for the fact that I've been able, because a lot of the time I deal with like people in like positions of power or like executives or CEOs. So I'm a straight shooter. So they're used to maybe sometimes people not really being courageous enough to speak up or whatever. And it's like, I'm not afraid of that. I'm gonna speak my mind. So I mean, and you're paying me really good
To
money
speak your mind.
to speak my mind, you know what I mean? And to help you get through this. So I mean, it's a win-win. It works out. But they're more grateful for the fact of like enlightenment in a sense, like, oh, and that's what I love, right? I never thought of it that way. Like that's
Yes.
so cool when it's like,
Yes.
oh, a shift in perspective, you know what I mean?
So, talk to us about a workspace where you've been able to give us an example or a conglomerate of examples of where you've been able to help people really see that they've probably caused their own heartbreak. Really, is what happens for a lot of
Mm.
us
You mean in terms of in the workplace?
in the workplace. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, okay. With some of my clients, like I say, they're in a position where they're of power, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some of their teams are floundering. So we talk about, okay, if you're a leader and you're in a position of leadership, that comes with a lot of trust and communication and being able to problem solve and flexibility, obviously. But there's a breakdown between you and your teams then. If their performance has dropped off, if they're feeling burnt out, there's something that they're not getting from you as a leader. Maybe you're not seeing their value.
Mm.
Maybe they don't feel appreciated. Maybe they don't, it's a space where they don't feel that they can speak up because they'll be shut down. So there was a client that I had that was having these issues. And when I sat down and spoke to the person about this, he at first wasn't receptive, because then it meant he had to look inside himself.
Ouch.
Right?
I don't wanna.
Right. But I'm like, if you want productivity and you want your teams to align, you got to look at yourself. You're the leader. They're following you whether you like it or not. So you can't just be the one that's like barking off orders. A good leader is one that someone respects and will come up to and that they trust. So in doing the work deeper, in his childhood, he was neglected. And and it made him feel powerlessness. So in order to feel powerful, it was easier for him to bark these orders. But of course, when you're barking orders, you're not seeing people. You're not showing that you value them. Hey, good job today. Well done. I know it's a bit difficult. Look, I know that what we're doing is a lot and this volume is unrealistic and crazy. But look, I just wanted you to know that I appreciate what you're doing. These are the little things, right, that show people that, man, he's on my team. He's on my team. This sucks, but I'm seen. He's on my team. And so in doing that work and helping him release that, it changed his perspective. It changed him. And he was able to better connect to other people then, not wanting to dominate them, but lead them.
Well, and I mean, look at that. That had nothing really to do with his work environment, although it had everything to do with his work environment.
Yeah.
I bet it changed everything in his personal relationships too. And you tell me, did you do that in one session, 2 sessions?
No. No, this was a good 3 months.
Okay. Well, but think this problem that he's been struggling with, because what I've seen when people are doing that, they are also feeling guilt and they don't like how they feel. They don't like what they're doing. In 3 months, you probably solved a 40-year problem.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about that. That's amazing. That's stepping in and looking where the heartbreak is and going, okay, it's not outside of you. I think that's the key thing. It's not outside of you, something you internalize. This is some Gabor Mate theory. It's not what the trauma is, it's how did I internalize it? Something you internalize doesn't feel safe.
Yes.
And how do you set up safety?
So the big thing was trust and learning for us to establish that, right? And by me seeing him, what I was able to do is basically just, obviously, we talked about what's going on in his life currently and what he'd want to get out of the session. And then I also knew, because this is part of my philosophy, that repressed emotions show up in your body. That I'm actually exploring my pursuing my PhD to do my dissertation on that, actually. And so in part of the intake, I realized also that he was having a lot of abdominal issues.
Oh, there you go.
Yes. So I knew that's where powerlessness shows up, through the energy center of the gut, right? I call it the gut, but solar plexus, like whatever. That's the one. Having these abdominal issues, I knew straight away it's either fear-based, it's powerlessness, or abuse. So then I was able to set up questions that probe just a little bit at a time to get to that, to see, okay, what is it that you fear? You know, where I didn't just launch into abuse, but I mean, what made you feel powerless? Or if there was ever a time in your life where you felt powerless, and it was like, you know, there's like, yeah, there's been times, but you know, then he changed the subject. So okay, I knew I could. Well, I'm hitting on something then. But
you hit the sore tooth. The sore tooth, and he wasn't going to let you extract yet. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So I at least knew, okay, well, that's the spot there. I'm not going to just go in and be like, well, what will happen? So I knew that, okay, we'll talk about other things and other aspirations, and then I could go back to
Yeah.
explore it. And so that's how the process kind of unfolded and made him feel safe. Because I think sometimes, yeah, you do have to maybe just go straight to the root of the problem, but there has to be some sort of safety position there. Otherwise, people are not going to open up. No, you know what I mean? And then you could destroy that relationship right there and then. You could break that trust. So it's about setting up parameters where that person feels safe enough to expose, because it's like an onion, right? You're peeling off these layers bit by bit. And so by me just being there and showing that support and not hammering so much, it builds that trust and that space. So sorry, go on. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, fantastic. That's part of the science and kindness movement for Center for Change and Center for Change and Motivation is if we keep hounding and pounding on the person who has the issue, who already feels extreme guilt, aloneness, separation, that doesn't, and let's couch this in terms of boundaries, that doesn't mean that you put up with poor behavior. But it also, you mentioned Brene, one of the things that she talks about, especially with her kids, is holding space.
Yeah.
And she talks about it with her daughter, that it was either a friend problem or a really bad day or something wasn't going well. And she sat with her and held space. Didn't push it one way or the other, but said, yes, I understand. I've had situations like this in my own life. Do you want to hear that? And that's where your work is so magnificent, and coming in and going, okay, we could just put in a plan and we could work through the plan and we'll just mash through it and make it better. But you would not have helped that guy. You might have helped him temporarily. You might have helped the bottom line temporarily, but it's really like stuffing gauze down in the tooth. You didn't get the tooth out. You put some Novocaine on it and stuff some gauze down in it.
That's a great analogy.
You're not really dealing with what the real issue is, and some people may never let you deal with it. And some people truly don't know. That's where I really like EMDR and some of those other methodologies. So you're talking about heartbreak in such a broad space and the mind-body connection. What do you feel your superpower is?
Oh my goodness. My superpower and my gift actually is the fact that, I mean, it's a blessing and a curse, I will say that, but I've learned to protect myself better. That now I understand is that I'm able to not only feel a person's emotions and understand why they're feeling the way that they do, I'm able to feel it before they even can feel it, if that makes sense. Like it's something deeper within going on that will show up that I can intuit, I guess, and then go from there in my mind as to know, okay, what questions do I silently ask them that probes them a bit at a time that will hit a spot, and then I know, and then we hold that space, and then there's some people actually who have just, I've hit that spot and it's come out, which it's wanted to bloody come out at that point for a long time.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So that my gift is being able to recognize emotions in other people that they've had buried inside, and that's been causing these blocks and this burnout and this physical pain and this disconnection. And I think the other one is my kindness, which that's why I think people just swarm to me for stuff.
So anywhere you go, your husband can expect 15-20 minutes of just people circling.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Even walking in the neighborhood, different things. He would be like, we'd go for a walk. He goes, how do you know them? And I'm like, I don't know. I just would wave and just be friendly. It was, hi. And then it's like, oh, hi. It's funny.
We started out with the English stereotype. How did you break that? How did you move into, I'm waving at everybody, I'm talking to everybody? Because you wouldn't do that on the streets of London.
No, I wouldn't. But you know what? It's not safe. Because I've recognized that repressed emotions show up in the body. Now, for me, I still use that to an extent. The problem was before is that I never went back to recognize and release the emotion, right? I just kept it stuffed, because there are some instances where that is part of one of the, I can be very stoic,
Mm-hmm.
which isn't bad. Stoicism isn't bad when you use it in the right circumstances. So for me, that is part of that, being stoic, being able to manage and get on with something, because at the time you can't necessarily fully divulge into what's going on. So I have a little process for myself, which is called catch and change. And that's catch the thought, change the thought. So I know how I'm feeling. So I release it by accepting that this is my reality. So somebody just said, you know what I mean? Like, catch the thought, change the thought. This is my reality. Then I move on. And then later on, I'll unpack it. Well, so-and-so really peed me off because they just shouted out of nowhere. And it was like, well, I didn't deserve that. And so then I unpack that myself. And then through my meditation, I release the emotion by literally seeing it come off my body in a dense form. So,
Ooh.
I mean, yeah, that's huge.
That's pretty. So you were catching
It's
it and changing
huge.
it because it's Paul. It's Paul, right? I think I've got this right. Paul tells us to capture all our thoughts, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Says take
Yeah.
all your thoughts
Yes.
captive
Yeah.
and turn them to Christ.
Yes.
Right?
And that's part of that.
What you weren't doing is you were catching them and turning them, but you weren't releasing them. The picture comes to me of kind of this tug of war. I'm going to give it to you, Jesus, but I'm going to take it back. I'm going to give it to you.
Yeah. We all do that. And that's the control element that we all want to hold on to, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, I've totally been there. Totally. But that's the thing now. I understand that in giving it to Christ, I accept responsibility for the part that I played in it. And then I give the rest of it. Because I think that's the component sometimes people miss out. We all bring something to a situation, whatever that might be. And I think the other part of when you release it, because there's a saying that I say is row to Christ, when you're praying to Christ, that is pray to Christ and row towards shore. So that means
pray to Christ and row towards shore. So you have a part in this. You need to. He didn't ask us. One of my favorite preachers out of Bethel Church, Bill Johnson, said he didn't ask us just to be born and go to sleep, and he would take care of it. We've got a role to play too, right?
Right. Exactly. Well, exactly. That's part of free will. It's part of being human. It's part of being accountable and accepting responsibility. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so we have to own whatever part that is. But you pray to Christ, but row towards shore. And that's
pray to Christ and row towards shore. Pamela, if folks want to work with you, want to get a hold of you, where can we find you? And tell us again about your book.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. You can find me at ramoniministries.com. That's RAMONI and then ministries.com. And you can just go on there. There's free resources on there as well. It's pretty laid out in detail how you can find me there. There's different packages and things that you'd like if you want to contact me. All the buttons are right there for you to click. I'd love to work with you. And then my book as well, it's available on Amazon. I'm very proud of being an author and writing that book. It was a cathartic experience for me. It helped me release a lot of the abandonment that I felt and the rejection and the self-loathing. But I'm grateful for it because I've walked that walk and I'm able to help my clients because I know what it's like to get knocked down and get up again. That's the best way to describe me as a human being, because whatever obstacles that I face, I tackle them head on and I come out the other side. And each time you do that, you build your cycle of resilience. So
you build your cycle of resilience and you build your prayer muscle. I had somebody say to me when they were meditating, they said, I'm counting it as a win every time my mind wanders off and I bring it back. That's doing the muscle. That's doing the reps. It wanders off, but comes back without beating myself up.
Exactly. And that's why earlier on I said to say to the viewers, don't be upset if your mind wanders. Just bring it back to your body, because it's normal. Because at first I would beat myself up, but then I realized as I went through the process, I was like, but this is going to happen. We can't not think. It's just not attaching stuff to it so that you ruminate.
That's right.
You know?
That's right.
You
That
know?
rumination is what gets us in trouble. So we're
Yeah.
catching it.
Yes. And changing.
Changing it. Catching
Cog-
and changing.
Cognitive reframing basically is all that is. But I always simplify stuff. So cognitive reframing is just reframing your perspective in a different light, or saying a statement that will, or a mantra that will help you get through. So you catch the thought and then you change the thought. That's all.
That's fabulous. Pamela, thank you so much for joining us on Faith and Addiction. What is the name of my podcast? Pamela, thank you so much for joining us on Faith Over Addiction. And we will have to visit again because we haven't even scratched the surface of shame and guilt and the self-loathing and self-sabotage. So I
would love that. Thank you for having me, Tanya. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for tuning into the Faith Over Addiction podcast. Remember, nothing changes until something changes. Today is your day to step out in faith and make a difference. You are a daughter of the King, a woman who can spark incredible ripple effects of hope and healing, not just in your own life, but in your family, your community, and God's kingdom. If this episode encouraged you, bless someone else by sharing it. Send it to a friend who needs a little hope, or post it on Instagram and tag me. I'd love to hear what resonated most with you. And hey, if you're ready to reclaim your God-given identity and create a safe, loving space for yourself and those you care about, let's talk. Book a quick call with me today, and I'd love to hear your story and help you take the next step. Oh, and don't forget to head over to Apple Podcasts, search for Faith Over Addiction, and leave me a review. Your feedback not only makes my day, but helps other women find this podcast and step into freedom too. You are strong, you are loved, and the joy of the Lord is your strength. Nehemiah 8:10. Until next time, keep walking boldly into the life God has for you.